You are listening to the Yappington Central Podcast. All aboard! You are listening to the Yappington Central Podcast. All aboard! You are listening to the Yappington Central Podcast. All aboard! You are listening to the Yappington Central Podcast. All aboard! You are listening to the Yappington Central Podcast. All aboard! You are listening to the Yappington Central Podcast. All aboard!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Yappington Central Podcast. After a quite lengthy hiatus, we are finally back with the boys. Today, I am joined by Redline Overload.
6325, return to Steam.
Railroad Dude 7470.
Open up my cage! They're attacking!
Railfan Loy.
Another Mercado has hit the narrow gauge.
And Frantic Scopes. I'm sorry.
Roll that bumble out. Hello.
Okay, let's get started. Oh,
boy.
Man. Oh.
The funny's hitting him too hard. You're hitting him too hard with the funny. You need to stop.
Okay, alright.
We need to cut. We need to cut the
start.
funny's mic.
Alright.
We need to cut the funny's mic real quick.
Hello, welcome, all of the 7 people watching. Wow, that's a lot of people. Anyways, as I was saying, most of you guys, know that we were on a hiatus, and the main reason for this was simply because school came around, and if you know school, it is a literal prison, and literally nobody likes it.
This is true.
True statement.
I'll be right back.
Outright 10 out of 10 facts. Anyways, hello chat. Welcome to the tomfoolery.
Yes. So, gentlemen, what topic do we want to start out with? We have a few that we came up with, setting up for the stream. Who wants to lead off first?
Well, I will save best for last. Mine.
Sure,
Sorry,
Jimmy.
I had to...
A little bit of biased-isms right there.
We're all biased here. Here at the Yappington Central National Studios, we are the most biased people in the entire world.
Here, we are not legally allowed to judge anything.
What?
Correct.
AJ, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm totally not sitting here wondering why the Pear Marquette and ones are the best Berkshires. Wait, what?
Legally allowed
You're
and going
wrong.
to do it anyway are two totally different things.
Okay, we should probably get started with some topics. So,
Yes.
for our first stream back, we actually have collected topics this time. So we're not just a bunch of hillbillies talking over each other. So today we have, for our first suggestion, is actually by Redline Overload, which is model railroad clubs and what is bad and good about them, and how we can make them have a better experience. Now, Redline, would you like to take the mic on this?
Yeah, so I lived in Arizona for a while, and during my time there, I visited a model railroad club. And during my visit at the model railroad club, I got a feeling of the club not feeling very organized, and just kind of some of the members were kind of rude. And also the layout was pretty dusty and dirty, and I don't know, I just didn't really get a good experience from them. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking of this on the fly. I'm trying to put together my thoughts. So, and I really don't have my thoughts collected. So we may just circle back on me. I'll let someone else take this from here.
If you want me to take the stage, I have a few topics on this subject. Also, is my microphone set correctly? A little quiet, too loud, just right?
Just right.
All right, good to know. You want me to take the topic a little bit?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll preface this by saying I've been a member of the Knoxville Area Model Railroad Club for officially 10 years now. It'll soon be 11 here shortly. That amounts to the majority of my life. I have been in this model railroad club. I've seen pretty much everything that could happen to a model railroad club happen. We've observed other model railroad clubs, such as the Crossville area model railroad guys. They lost their facility. Watched the Chattanooga guys get ripped out of their facility quite literally overnight by a GSA contractor that was there to tear out that segment of the building and put it to its new government service. We watched all kinds of facility loss occur, and we are thankful and quite frankly fortunate enough to get a spot in the back of a museum wing made out of a 1940s school building. Our club, I'll start by kind of throwing some of the bad stuff that you're going to encounter. You are always, without fail, going to encounter the operations dictator, the person that stands at the helm and acts like they're controlling the show. And realistically, all they are is a freight traffic controller with a dead controller. It's like that younger sibling that when you're playing whatever Xbox game, you hand them a dead controller, make them think they're doing something. That's exactly what goes on with the operations dictator. But pretty quickly they get wise to it and they just hate everybody. The thing is with them, you don't take it personally. It's not that they hate you. It's just that they hate everybody. It's nothing personal. It's just business. The next thing you're going to encounter is jank wiring, especially if you own Broadway models. Railfan Loy can attest to this. We have witnessed a total somewhere around 50 decoder destruction. And when I say 50 decoder destructions, I mean set the locomotive on the track, run it around, and the decoder is losing magic smoke rapidly. Those little spicy pixies running around inside those tiny channels have all of a sudden escaped and done so with grandeur, rendering a $300, $400 model a worthless brick on wheels. We've watched it time and time again just because someone went, I wonder if, we keep blowing this 10 amp fuse. I wonder if I replace it with a 15 amp, what would happen? Turns out there was a short circuit somewhere that was causing an impedance issue that was frying decoders. And in some cases, such as the yard, the track voltage was turned up somewhere close to 20 volts. Then all of a sudden, after cooking several models, it was down somewhere around 10 volts, and they couldn't run very fast at all. You're going to encounter stuff like that because it's a group project. And what group project have you ever heard of that works seamlessly and flawlessly? These are just things you're going to encounter. You can't manage it. It's not your layout. It's a group project, and it's going to have lots of problems. Also, if you decide to pull stock out of, let's say, a yard track, always put it back exactly the way you found it, because I promise you, there's at least one person out there, most likely the operations dictator, and they will hate you with greater vengeance than the rest over that one little mistake. And that's what I have to say for now.
Yeah, I know that for a fact. I'm a member of the Providence Northern, and I believe I borrowed. So it was just so I borrowed a train that was stationed in one of the yards, and I was gonna bring it back. But I had to go, so I couldn't bring it back to its original place because I had to get out of there because I had to go home, and so I placed it in the nearest yard, and then I come back like 2 weeks later, and it's just like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you leaving someone's train in a different yard? And I was like, bro, because I had to go, and all that stuff. And it was like you will be given hell if you do something wrong.
Yeah, I'll throw this in as well. You're just going to be given all kinds of crap off of stuff happening here, there, and yon just because that's kind of how these clubs go. And remember, until you get to be about 60 or you've been a member for more than 10 years, people in those clubs typically don't see you as a member of the club. They see you as a new guy in the club until you reach that seniority point. Personal experience here, our club has been around since 1987. They've been around for what'll be 40 years here very soon. It's been a long time. We have members that have been there since the beginning, and they have earned their 35-year badges. We keep pretty good track of stuff like that. It's really neat, though, that they've maintained these records. It's genuinely incredible. Rather nice to have them around because it's sort of your status of seniority. This is another thing you'll find in a lot of railroad clubs. It takes time to get to be able to do things. Right now, I am in the middle of a potential nomination for a board position. I've been 10 years in that club, and a couple of the members said, hey, you've got some pretty big projects going on the layout. I'm managing an entire development of sort of the biggest industries that the Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina narrow gauge route had. And as part of overseeing that project, I've been recommended to be on the board. So we'll see. I doubt I'll get on there. I doubt that I'll have anyone vote for me. But if I do, I guarantee you not much will happen. But hey, it's nice to know. That's what I've got to say.
Real quick, also just real quick, hello, Wasatch Subdivision Rail fan, but I've never joined a railroad club. In fact, I've wanted to. The one that's local to me is the Buell Club in Sharon, Pennsylvania, and every year they hold their Christmas train show. They're always looking for people. Really anyone could come in and set up stuff. You don't have to be specifically from the club itself. But I would really like, now that like with you guys talking about it, I'm kind of interested on how this will all turn out. But real quick, we have a late joiner, just to let everyone know. One of our other hosts, Jaden, wants to join, so we will let him in. So I'm gonna bring this around real quick. Oh, sorry. So I'm gonna bring this around real quick and say that, Fisher, I remember talking to you, and you mentioned how people at railroad clubs have a no dress code. Could you please further elaborate on that?
Yes. So now that I'm kind of thinking about the context, and I've never really been a part of a model railroad club, that like maybe this is so a lot of my thoughts are more from an outsider's perspective. And like I said, I've never joined a model railroad club, myself. So maybe my insider thoughts wouldn't quite be appropriate since I've never really joined one. So yeah.
So, on the topic of a dress code, if you don't mind my jumping in, I can stop if you need me to.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so assuming I have the floor, basics of the dress code stuff. We actually had some recent incidents concerning that. We've also had past issues. I do a lot of large scale stuff. As some of you know, I currently own 2 live steam models, 3 if you count my younger brother's, which he never operates. My big thing is when handling live steam equipment, it's dangerous. It's just inherently dangerous. It's 80 psi. You're having to deal with really high temperatures, small children, and high temperatures. I don't know what it is about them, but they see something that is blazing hot and they're immediately attracted to just grip it with their little hand and burn the crap out of themselves. Also, moving rods and rod gear. You don't think about a large scale model, a G scale model, weighing as much as they do, but my lightest model, which is Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina, number 9, it weighs in somewhere just shy of 16 pounds. And my largest model, a model of the Denver and Rio Grande Western 360, a C-21 class locomotive, it weighs in at just over 32. So these things are crazy heavy, like absolutely insanely heavy. They will absolutely hurt you if you get hit.
Wow.
And
Real quick.
I have to be up and down. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Real quick. Sorry to barge in, but I never realized how heavy those things are. Did 35 pounds? Did I hear that right?
That's correct. And that's without water. That's dry weight.
Holy...
Once we get water, it holds a full gallon, so it's about 8 pounds extra. And then you got to calculate each of the cars in. I run pseudo bearings on them, so they're easier to haul. Steel wheels. Each car comes in somewhere around 20 pounds a piece. That's how much weight I run in them. I'll run anywhere between 6 and 10.
Dang.
So when we get on the hills, we have serious wheel slip issues. I'm thankful we have the superheaters, or else we'd just blast through water with them. When steam comes out of the boiler, it's somewhere between 70 and 80 psi. Once it goes through the superheater and enters the steam chest, it's somewhere around 180. So there's a lot of pressure going on. There's a lot of hot stuff going on in those locomotives. They can hurt people. I have to be up and down on the layouts. This is where it circles back to a dress code. The layout, specifically when I'm operating in fall and spring, you have to wear warmer clothing. And if I'm up, down, up, down, up, down, and let's say I have to climb up in front of a bunch of small children, they always tend to just follow me wherever I go. And I have looked over my shoulder and had 4 small children right behind me on a layout with 3 live steam models going at the same time, 1 in the firing pit and 2 hauling the freight up the hill. And I cannot describe the amount of, oh crap, that goes through your head at that moment. It is something else.
I'm sure.
So then the other thing is you have members that are going to inflame. You know, they're going to wear, let's say, the most politically active shirt that you could have. They would wear that. Another thing is this comes from visitors. We had a guy come in once as a visitor and just about started a fuss with some of the members over wearing a arguably racist t-shirt. When you're a club like that, we can technically get sued for discrimination or hate speech if one of our members is wearing something on a public open house, because we're a private entity operating with an open door, making it a public space, and so we have to accommodate. If we have people that have a nut allergy, tree nut allergy, we have to get rid of the tree nuts. If we want to have people on board and people doing stuff with us, we have to make sure that there's not little screws poking out that could cut people. We have to kind of baby-proof it to make it legal. We also have to be ADA compliant. So having a constant uniform in this whole thing that everyone's wearing, a name badge and a general similar color of shirt, if not outright same shirt for everyone, then you know who to look for when there's an issue. You know who to ask or call on. We've had issues with that in the past. We've had a lot. And that's why I kind of lobby for and really encourage for railroad clubs to have a uniform. That's my piece on the matter.
Yeah, I think Frantic pretty much spoke my brain there. There are a few things I would like to add, particularly for members that are more in the elderly side of things, maybe 50, 60, 70, or 80 years old. More elderly members wear hearing aids. Because there are some members, because, for example, I visited some railroad clubs before, and I've tried to talk to some of the more elderly members, and I've had difficult conversations because even when I've spoken to them directly, I found it very difficult to have a conversation with them. Also, another thing too is one thing that I notice is that I tend to notice that some members, and this is just and this is goes for everything. If you're a member of a model railroad club, take a shower, clean your clothes, keep up on your basic hygiene, brush your teeth, smell good, look good. Because here's the thing, and this kind of piggybacking TUFC off of what Frantic spoke about, is the members are the image of the club. And in an open house, you have to have that image. You need to present a good image, because let's just say in a hypothetical situation that someone walks into a model railroad club on a Saturday afternoon, and let's say that they're in the world of models. Let's just say they're into remote control airplanes or remote control cars or whatever, and they want to take the step into model railroading. And so, they just Google search their local club. They go in on a Saturday afternoon. If they go into a model railroad club and the building is clean, it's organized, the layout is clean, the members are well groomed, they smell good, they look good, they have what Frantic said, a uniform with a name tag, and they're friendly, they can ask any questions. That person may not have a lick of train knowledge, they may not even know the difference between a steam or a diesel engine. They might, just from the first impression, they may join that club. And another thing that I want to add too is and I don't know if this really is a problem. Like I said, this is more from an outsider's perspective. Is let's just say that that same person joins that club and they buy an engine that's a Bachmann DCC and Sound Mikado, just USRA Mikado. It's a few freight cars, and then they're in a caboose. And let's say they start running that engine. Well, let's just say that even though there might be some members in the club that they know more than maybe to buy a Bachmann USRA Mikado, maybe there's a better model out there. And my thought would be like, let the new person enjoy their model, let them learn the TCC controls, like let them enjoy their models, because and if someone is like, oh, you should have picked a whatever skill trains or something model, like let them enjoy their model, let them grow with it, and like just let them enjoy it, and don't be like a super foamer rivet counter, because I would think that, because in my opinion, I feel like that would scare away some people that are maybe new to model railroading. They might get out of model railroading and then go back to RC cars or planes or whatever. So that's kind of my piece.
I've seen it happen before. I believe, I was in this Discord server, and I was just like, I was just looking around, like, all right, this seems cool-ish. It seems okay. And then I look in one of the models channels, and someone's like, I just bought this new USRA like locomotive thing. And
Jimmy?
yeah.
Just a reminder, you probably know this, but if just don't say names. We don't want to dox people or be mean.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say names. No.
Okay, good.
I don't dox people. No. But they were like, oh yeah, you should have. That was the terrible model, bro. Why did you even waste your money on that piece of garbage? And that person was just like, bro, I just liked the model. I just wanted a model. And then he was like, well, sell it. It's a terrible model. You need to get some better. And then like a week later, the person left the server, and so did I, because it's people like those that kind of make me fear for the current state of model railroading as a whole.
Now I
Oh, sorry, Fisher. Go ahead.
That makes me. I'll continue ahead on here. That I feel like there's a difference here, where let's just say that someone goes, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, you can't expect someone that's completely green to trains or just model railroading in general. You can't blame them for not knowing something, right? They're learning. They'll learn with time. They'll learn that maybe a Bachmann model, they'll learn maybe a Bachmann model isn't a very good model, and that some other model is better, maybe Athearn or something. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, let's just say that someone is wanting to make a prototypical consist, let's just say transition era steam freight, right? From the Pennsylvania Railroad, right? Let's just say that person, let's say that one person in the club is like, is a historian. They have sources, they have, pictures and, whatnot, and say that one person.
Sir.
What did I miss?
I'm sorry, I just started giggling.
Sir, to explain what's so funny.
Fisher.
What's so funny about
So there's just someone in the chat saying, Jerry the tank yank saying,
guy.
Legit, there's a 10% chance some guy would act like an annoying rivet counter when they see my O-gauge stuff when I post outside of O-gauge OK circles real.
Model railroading
The
server be
the
like.
truest statement
Jerry?
of all time, little bro.
Jerry, let me throw this in here right now. This is going to be the most abridged that I can stand to give version. But the Tennessee Central 551. Railfan Loy, you know this story.
Don't do it.
Oh,
Do not
no.
do it.
Do
Tennessee
not
Central
do it. Do
551
not.
From Lionel
No,
is the worst model of the century.
No.
It has.
Shut up.
Listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the lawyer of Frantic_Scopes. We regret to inform you that Mr. Scopes has been ejected by his ejector seat from the studio. We will return to this program momentarily.
Ejectocito, cuz.
Okay. One thing I just want to say is that I find that incorrect. Lionel's depiction of the 643 is the worst model ever.
Lionel
me.
post-war trains.
Lionel Coinbank.
Anyways,
You're anchoring the best mirror foamer today.
Lionel Coinbank.
yeah. So
Alright, let's get back on topic.
yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about model railroad clubs. I pretty much share the opinion with Frantic on there being a uniform, people knowing their like I said, like even if someone is like a super historian, like they know their stuff and whatnot, like even if you are like a super perfect counter foamer, like just let people enjoy their stuff. And if they approach you about either making a locomotive prototypical or making freight cars prototypical or making a prototypical consist, then you start talking. But just let people enjoy the hobby for what it is, and don't make everyone else conform to how you enjoy the hobby, because people enjoy the hobby for a different reason. I mean, there are some people that enjoy model railroading just for the fun of running trains. Like that's literally their enjoyment. And I feel like some people that are like super rivet counters and they get on people about oh my gosh, the engine is so unprototypical. It's like I feel like those might be the same people that complain about how no one is in model railroading. Anyways.
Yeah, probably.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why there's a lot less people in model railroading. It proceeds to stare at the old heads, scaring away all the newbies.
Real quick.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm going to suggest a topic here. I don't know if you are all sort of advanced into the hobby yet, but model railroading and technology. Ashton, this is at your discretion. You have the floor.
Model railroading and technology. So, you mean like how model railroading as a whole has progressively progressed as technology has changed?
Progressed as technology has changed, and how technology is being withheld by it. Or from it.
That? Okay, well, I guess I can give a good example because of my O-gauge stuff, because I have a lot of stuff from different eras. My oldest locomotive is from 1935. My youngest locomotive is from 2024. So, I can tell you that the older locomotives from the 30s, 40s, and 50s have the same pull-more motor. Most, if not everything, is mechanical and runs off of a system that requires a drum to be moved with a lever in order to set pins in the correct position to move the motor. The motor is simple. But after Lionel was acquired by General Mills, they started cheapening the line, and they came out with sort of these like smaller RC motors that still worked with AC current. And that slowly, and then a good example of technology and model trains coming together is probably the Lionel's Mighty Sounds of Steam, or Mighty Sounds of Static. as that used a chip that when it hit a wire, it would make a sound, and in turn would create a chuffing noise. Um, and then in the 80s and 90s, TMCC kind of started to become more popular and more known, and more chips and features were put inside of the locomotives until we get to today, where now we have Bluetooth systems inside of standard and Lionel sets. But I think, like, these are cool, but I feel like these new technologies are holding it back in a way because of the price point.
Oh, good but bad, kind of.
I mean, think about it. So, let me give an example. When you produce a Bluetooth model, you're gonna have to add a lot of special made chips. I believe special made chips to read that controller in order to communicate with that, including the app plus an onboard sound. If you go to nothing but conventional, you just need to find a way to put an electronic E unit connected to a motor. You can put sounds, but you wouldn't have to worry about a Bluetooth chip. And I feel like Lionel is a great example of this, because for the longest time, Lionel didn't have this. MTH never had this. MTH, I don't think, ever had this, and the closest they ever had was their DCS system. And then again, even that was more for their scale stuff. Most of their locomotives were compatible with stuff like conventional, which made it cheaper to produce. That's why the Rail King line was so successful, was because it targeted a market that really back then was always fulfilled by someone. I mean, back then it was originally fulfilled by Marx, then it was fulfilled by some of the slower end HO stuff like Tyco, then it was fulfilled by MTH, and now Menards is kind of stepping in. But in conclusion, I feel like model trains can get really advanced with the progression of technology, but at the same time, this progression is holding them back price point wise and availability wise.
May I pop in here just for a quick second? Jerry the Tank Yank
Oh boy.
in the chat says, I had a negative view on Bluetooth controls until I found out that the set remote that came in a set I bought in a show was broken. Saved me from having a $140 paperweight. Yes, that is true. That is true. Also, missed the skirt. Didn't Rail King have an Erie triplex?
Yes.
In semi-scale?
Yes.
That is wild. That is actually wild. They also had like FEFs, didn't they?
You want to hear something wild? They had a Challenger, and it could fit around 031.
Not gonna lie, I'd be impressed to see something go around an 031 curve, especially a Challenger. Oh my gosh.
My layout is 031, so it would be impressed to see anything go past that, because not even my SD38 can get around that thing. So
I would say, if you ask me, what the pure Lionel is if you ask me what pure Lionel is the traditional Lionel trains that are conventional, not Rail King or not Lion Chief, not Bluetooth, just straight up Lionel, just straight up traditional Lionel with the transformer. That is, in my opinion, absolute Lionel. Now, one thing I wish that Lionel would do, and again, this is kind of a like a wishing thing, is do a line called Lionel Classics, and basically do reproductions of sets ranging all the way from post-war through the MPC era, through the Richard Kuhn era, and into Lionel Incorporated era. And do those sets as simple as possible. Just no real rail sounds. Maybe the diesels have a horn, and maybe the steam engines have an air whistle. I know for myself, I'm also an O-gauger, and I have a lot of engines from that kind of range differences in controls. Like I have a Lionel Team CC Western Maryland 729, and that's fun to run. I like the Team CC, and I also have my first Lionel train set, which is a Lionel New York Flyer from 1993. That thing is old school. It's 027. It's traditional semi-scale, and it has a old Lionel transformer, and it has an air whistle, and I absolutely love the thing. If I had the space, I could see myself doing an entire 027 Lionel layout. So yeah.
Well, I'd like to throw this in, rounding a little bit back toward the technology and model railroading topic. And I will begin by answering Railroader Gaming 2009. Anyone got a Rio Grande narrow gauge steamer in HON3 scale, or really any scale for that matter?
I have a Lionel Rio Grande SD40T-2 tunnel motor,
but is it HON3?
No, it'd be Lionel, so it's the Rio Grande standard gauge, but that's the only Rio Grande piece that I have.
Fair. So this is coming from me. I actually have several little HON3 models. I have friends that have loads of models. We absolutely love HON3 in our model railroad club, Knoxville area model railroaders. That is pretty much the entire branch that I'm working on, the Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina branch. All right. Oh, all right, Smokestack. I'll. That's noted. The HON3 stuff, absolutely love it. It's probably one of my favorite skills. I've currently got a couple of pieces sitting on my desk. Rounding back toward railroad technology, model technology specifically, our greatest system, and this is unbiased, not really an opinion. This is going through and kind of studying how these systems work and how these operating systems have functioned and how they've developed over the years. We'll start with basically the founder of electronics in model railroading, the founder of DCC, MRC. When is the last time that anyone here has heard of the Model Rectifier Company?
A what?
Model Rectifier Company.
Never
MRC.
heard of it.
Precisely. No one remembers MRC because MRC is a has-been. They came in 1983 and they developed a little system based off of the Lionel power supply stuff called Digital Command Control. Digital Command Control is a system that uses a modulated pulse wave over the carrier frequency of alternating current. Lionel learned how to do this earlier by varying from 60 hertz to 50 hertz and from 60 hertz to 70 hertz to make the whistle sound go or the bell sound go in their electronic models. In DCC, the way that our carrier goes is a binary code. We give it the code for 1. Let's say our locomotive is number, this is the simplest number ever, it is number 0003. 3 zeros followed by 3. This is the default code for everything. That is, and this is how the binary code goes, 0 skip 0 skip 0 skip 0 1 1 0. Skip stop. That right there is the address for the locomotive. Next up, we get this little binary set of code. Let's say we're not going to do speed step because that would take me legitimately a full minute to give you the description of one speed step. We'll give it the blow the horn, and we're not going to give it a release. So we're going to go 0 skip 0 skip 0 skip 0 skip 1 1 0 skip stop pause hold 0 skip bell command, which is a sequence of ones and zeros, and then we're going to give that a hold pulse. Mind you, This system can support up to 99 pieces of motive power on a track at one time before you start having weird overlaps and unusual occurrences. This was absolutely revolutionary for the year 1983. This is incredible. It turned around how we thought about model railroading. The only issue was it only worked to make a train go forward or backward. It couldn't control anything outside of that. So, a little company that I bet every single one of you has heard of at least once, Digitrax.
Oh, yes.
Who here has heard of Digitrax? I know Railfan Loy has, I know Railroad Dude has, and I know Redline has. Ashton, have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
That makes all of us. We all know what Digitrax is. There's a reason for that. That's because they made an operating system. They made a great operating system, arguably one of the best in the history of model railroading, one that has hung on and managed to be somehow timeless for 29 years. This is a piece of technology, mind you. Our phones, they change every year. Our cell carriers changes every few months. Our password and encryption systems are changing daily. And yet this operating system, more on key with Windows. I mean, Windows 7, that hasn't been around for that long. It didn't hardly have a 10-year run. And here we are 29 years later. And this system is still arguably one of the best on the market. And it's underpowered. We have systems now with Wi-Fi. We have Bluetooth, which is very short range but does work. We have systems that, in my opinion, are far superior, and yet we hang on to this 29-year-old system for one reason and one alone, and that is it's cheap. Now, here I am giving my Chernobyl talk, but this is just like Chernobyl, but for model railroading. It's a cascade failure. The reason we've stuck with this system, with this RBMK reactor, if you will, is that it was cheap. It's simple. We understand how it works. It's reliable. And we get complacent with it. And we look up and we go, man, we've been missing out on technology for a long, long time. We could change how model railroading works, and yet we don't do it. Moving on from the controller topic, this is the one that I've actually kind of pioneered and designed a lot of stuff in. I've spent tons of time, and when I say tons of time, this is 4 years in development. Matter of fact, I have the model conveniently sitting right here next to me. I will set it on my desk and describe this piece of work. You will hear the case as I open it. Here I'm lifting some jewel cases out of the way so that I can get to it. And here,
in the meantime, Brannick, there's someone in the comment section saying, Smokestack saying, and I want to try to put together a massive DNRGW half-scale narrow gauge railroad managing up to 160 miles or more, all half-scale, so 6 inches to 1 foot scale, 36 locomotives running 2 lines. Smokestack, any specifics on? Okay, so Smokestack, that would be the Rio Grande 4th Division of the narrow gauge.
Tell you what, you deal with the narrow gauge stuff. I'm going to set up a small test track to demonstrate this. Okay. You all have the stage. I will return.
Yeah. Okay, so Smokestack continues to say 1 from Alamosa to Silverton. So that would be Alamosa through Antietam over what is now Cumbres Pass down to Chama, then Chama to Durango, assuming, through the Silverton branch in San Juan Extension and subdivision from Alamosa to the Monte Vista, which is the Monte Vista is in Salida, Colorado. An additional line through some mountains to a large pine farm. And when it's built, I'll be holding a massive week-long event running passenger trains, and it is the 4th. Yes, so Smokestack. So the Rio Grande 4th Division started in Alamosa, Colorado, So so the train ran, so the line, so it went from, so the Rio Grande 4th Division was Alamosa to Antonito, and then Antonito, you had the line that went over what is now the Cumbres and Toltec, and then you had the Chile line that went down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, that ran south out of Antonito, and then if you took the line past Antonito, you go over what is now the Cumbres and Toltec. That line over through the whole line over through Osier, through Cumbres Pass. You go down to Chama, and then Chama to Durango, and then in Durango you had the connection to the Rio Grande Southern, and that created the narrow gauge circle where both the Rio Grande and the Rio Grande Southern met in Ridgeway, Colorado. You then had the Silverton branch that went from Durango to Silverton. That is now the Durango and Silverton. That is today's DNS. That's the Silverton branch. Then you had the line that went down to Farmington, New Mexico. If you see old pictures of trains on the 4th Division, if you ever see them where they have the gondola and they have the two flat cars on the other side of it, that's a train that's hauling pipe down to the natural gas industry down in Farmington, New Mexico. Yes, smokestack, that is the Rio Grande 4th Division. So if you go onto Google or YouTube and you just type in, Rio Grande 4th Division, or, Rio Grande, Cumbres and Toltec or whatever, then you can start researching that part of the line. That part of the line is absolutely fantastic. Me personally, I've ridden the Cumbres and Toltec. I took the train out of Chama, and hearing a coal-fired K-36 at full tilt, going up Cumbres Pass, working its guts out is, it is an experience. Because the engines are coal-fired, I would recommend wearing safety glasses because cinders. Smokestack says, I also got a whole map of the entire systems too, so I've been researching for almost 10 years, so I know a substantial amount too. Okay, so you've done your research. That is very good. The Rio Grande narrow gauge is something special. It was around for a long time. The Rio Grande having steam on the books until 1980, or technically 1979 with the engines on the Silverton branch. Anyways, I saved it a few months ago when you did go see the Cumbres and Toltec. Did you get a chance to sit in the cab? No, I didn't. I did not sit in the cab. The car I was riding in was fairly close to the engine. I think I was the 4th car back from the engine. So I got some cool footage of the engine chugging up Cumbres Pass.
Can I butt in real quick?
Sure.
The amount of people that I know that talk about Rio Grande narrow gauge is insane. What is this, a cult?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, we very much are.
One of us.
Join the Rio Grande cult.
I've been on the
Today.
Durango and Silverton.
Join
Yeah,
the Durango and Silverton cult.
Apart from the Rio Grande, let's not forget the Denver South Park Pacific, the Colorado Central, the Colorado and Southern,
Denver and New Orleans.
No, Jimmy, that's standard gauge. We can get into that.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And the only 2-foot railroad to exist in Colorado, as far as I know, something, the Gifford Tramway.
Something tramway that had cute little baby Shay, Senor Russell.
We need to get Jackson on to talk about the Gifford Tramway.
that
Anyways,
could be the next one.
Well, the next stream maybe.
Next time on
Yeah.
Top Gear.
Yeah, next time on the Yappington Central podcast. So kind of on the topic of narrow gauge, with me being in Michigan, I sometimes, well, actually, I haven't seen it since like 2015, 2014, maybe 2015. Rio Grande 464, the K27 Mud Hen. It's been it's been a decade since I've seen that locomotive, and I had a friend of mine, that went down there for a photo charter. He said that 464 is a good 4 or 5 years away from running again. Okay, sure, but hopefully we'll have a Rio Grande K, or Rio Grande K27 back under operation again.
Or
So
63 visits the Huckleberry.
Interesting.
yeah, we like K27s. Anyways,
Stole my mud hen.
Okay, so
well, technically 464 went to Knott's Berry Farm and then to Huckleberry. So technically
They
it's
also
Californians
stole
that
my-
took her first.
Yeah, they took it and then you took it. All right, so Nosberry took some of my RGS and DNRG stuff. Then
Holy crap!
DNRG went to
Smokestack with the
Michigan.
announcement. Smokestack says I want to go see them both. I'm actually planning on coming to the USA to learn how to drive one of the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge locomotives on their driving school they have there. Maybe I can really hope dude, if you can learn how to get at the throttle of a K28 of a Rio Grande K, that is going to be epic.
That's bro. That's literally
I'm gonna be jealous
what I
if
was
you
gonna
get
do.
to. I'm gonna be jealous if you get to run the K37 490.
Sorry to
493. It's 493.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint you, bro, but I ain't gonna be building any K27. Sorry, I'm building K2. Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
close enough.
Yeah, okay. The big Ks are fun. The big Ks, Denver and Rio Grande Western number 491. Anyways, the Rio Grande Ks, whether it's Mud Hen, the K28s, the 36s, the 37s, like all the big Rio Grande Ks are fun. They're cool engines. So
Yeah,
All right.
they're very very goofy.
anyways, moving on.
Speaking of Colorado and 2-foot, wink wink, Jimmy, this is your suggestion. We will be moving topics. We will be moving topics to Railroad Dude 7470's topic about 2-foot gauge preservation in the northeast of the United States of America. Go ahead, Jimmy. You have the stage.
America, heck yeah,
America.
Well, first of all, I'm gonna need a little bit of imagery to represent the 2-foot gaugians.
I catch your drift. I'm gonna put up the goofy photo, okay?
Yeah, the goofy photo with
Let's see if
number
I can
2
just-
and 11.
Here, media
oh.
file. Wait, image.
Funny thing about 11. 11's formerly 3-foot. 11's a Frankenstein.
So is 11 converted?
11
JK,
was
joking, Jimmy. Please don't actually get mad.
11 was indeed converted, my friend.
Actually, I'm not gonna make that joke.
That's just outright fact. Basically, what has been happening in the northeastern states with 2-foot gauge, as of lately, basically, so for the past, during the months of December, during the month of December, the Edaville has been, the Edaville Railroad has been noticeably running their trains faster than they should be. Like, usually the train rides are like 20 minutes, like 21 minutes. The train rides have been literally reduced down to like 15 or 14 minutes because the crews are starting to highball the steam locomotives now and all that stuff. Like the moment they get the go ahead, they will start highballing down the line.
Hey Jimmy, I think.
Yes.
Hey Jimmy, I think the engineers at the E.1 Railroad have "Thundering Down the Track" by Burnham and Run playing in the engines.
I don't know. I need to ask I need to ask my friends who have asked the operations manager of Edith.
Either that,
I
or they have some really fast kicking bluegrass going on in the end.
probably. So basically, Edaville has been showing signs, a lot of signs that they are very interested in going back to their old roots with them running steam on a daily basis. Um, and they're doing more photo charters as of lately with the Edaville Railroad doubleheader on the 29th, and then the um, photo freight charter on the 22nd of December, which was the first freight photo charter Edaville has done since 30 years ago. So that was something. And so Edaville is showing signs they want to go back to their old roots. The last couple times I have been down the old main line, it seemed like there has been maintenance work going on the track up ahead on the old main line. So it seems like they're trying to rebuild it little by little. For context, the old main line, like some of the old main line was ripped up in, I believe, 2005. Um, it, I'll need to check, but January 1st, somewhere in between 2000 and 2010, so somewhere between then on January 1st, there was a photo charter, and it was also the last train to run on the old main line at Edaville, and then some of the tracks would be ripped up for housing, and so it seems like Edaville is trying to rebuild those tracks a little bit, kind of expand it a little bit more. And so Edaville is seeming to get progressively better at like bringing their past back to relevancy because oh I heard from so my friends who went on the 31st, so they the Edaville cruise did a double header on the 31st of December, and they also did a little bit of a goofy little thing with number 3, which ran on Edaville's package, which is one of Edaville's original engines from the good old days, as I refer to them. um, but so they put so for context, number 3 was originally from the Monson Railroad, and then it went to Edaville Railroad. So they had Monson lettering and Edaville lettering on the bunker at the same time. They had and according to the crews who were running the locomotives, they just put that on 3 for kicks. They just thought it would be fun, and it was only for the 31st. But I do hope they do it again. Probably not, but I hope they do, and I hope I'll be there that time.
Who knows? Your luck will come eventually.
Yeah. And all right, you go first.
Something I've always wondered about, like these like smaller gauged locomotives, is you've filmed a few of them. In fact, if you go check out his channel, you'll see that you have been there many times. But
many.
So first question is, I pulled up the photo on stream. What is this cursed abomination of a diesel switcher? Explain why.
So, I'm just gonna give a little bit of context. So, that was built by General Electric.
Of course.
So it was built by General Electric in somewhere in the 1940s. And it went to some iron factory for like a very short amount of time. Like, it wasn't there long at all. It had so there were two of these locomotives built, I believe. So there was number 1, which is completely identical to number 2. There were only 2 built by General Electric, to my knowledge, and those 2 still survive today. And so number 1 is currently at the Maine Narrow Gauge Railroad Museum in Portland, Maine, and is currently receiving, I believe, an overhaul because I think they're repairing number 1 because Edaville Railroad's diesel number 5 is at the Maine Narrow Gauge Railroad Museum doing the trains. So I think, yeah, number 1's getting maintenance while number 5 takes the trains. But so Edaville Railroad, so those diesels only had a year of true revenue service, and then I believe LSD Atwood bought them, maybe, and then they were painted in green and yellow, Maine Central colors with Edaville on it, and they served Edaville faithfully until 1993 came around. Edaville had, I'm not entirely sure if it was bankruptcy or some sort of lease or something. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'm getting more than one story thrown at me. So it was either a lease or Edaville went bankrupt, but Edaville did indeed go bankrupt, at least to my knowledge. They went bankrupt after all of the Maine 2-foot equipment got moved back up to Maine. So number 1 and number 2 were so they would help put the steam locomotives on the flatbed trucks, and same with all the other equipment. They would assist in the removal of all the Maine 2-foot equipment, and then unfortunately number 1 and 2 would part ways, and so number 2 has been at Edaville since its arrival, while number 1 left Edaville in 1993, and so number 2 is still kicking, while number 1 is dead. But so Edaville added some modifications to accommodate for the crews, so they could do their jobs easier. So they made those walkways, which gave it the goofy look. Now, the ditch light looking things, I cannot explain. I do not know.
They got it from the Canadians.
Oh, God.
Sir, how do you explain Comrade Ditch Lights?
Yes, the 2-foot gauge requires ditch light. Oh God, I
Okay.
would.
So, just to double check, because we've been going for an hour and 15. Is there
Whoopsies.
anything else you'd like to talk about regarding 2-foot?
So, I did. So, there is one more thing there are two more things actually. So, I'm just gonna clarify some things because I've seen people in the 2-foot gauge community kind of being like angry about certain things or questioning certain things. So, Monson Railroad number 3 is staying at Edaville until Edaville Railroad 21 is completely restored. Sorry about that. So Edaville Railroad 21 is currently under restoration at Edaville. It's basically going through 1472, and 3 is being leased annually by so Edaville is leasing number 3 annually from the main narrow gauge railroad museum, and number 3 is going to be staying at Edaville until Edaville Railroad 21 is completely restored. And also, so the reason Monson Railroad number 4 and Bridgeton and Saco River number 7 and 8 are being stored at the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington is because there's not enough room to store them at the main narrow gauge railroad museum. They can't be stored there because like there's one shed for one locomotive. Like that's it. And most of the locomotives used to be able to be in the museum building, but from what I've heard, they had to move the locomotives because of something about space and buildings. So
Yeah, just
there's that. Yeah, so most of the 2-foot gauge, most of the main 2-footers are at the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway property, which I hopefully will be visiting later this year. Hopefully.
That'd be cool.
Yes, because I get to go see Maine Choo Choo. I get to go see more Maine 2-foot. Yippee.
All right.
But that's about it.
Thank you, Jimmy. The next person that I'd like to ask if you have any suggestions is Lloyd, actually. Frantic, we're getting some feedback on your end.
My bad.
Lloyd, do you have any topics that you'd like to talk about?
Just some news and railroad preservation.
You've got the stage.
All right, so recently, the Nashville Steam Preservation Society, a group in Nashville, Tennessee, restoring Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railway 576, a 484 Northern or Dixie or whatever, what people call them. She was on star display at Centennial Park for a long time, and I think it was like 2017 when they moved her. But recently her flues arrived yesterday. And that's just a really big step into completing her restoration. That's it.
Alright. Interesting. Speaking of preservation as a whole, a lot of, we've seen a rise in a lot of different locomotives being, put back on the rails. For example, we're getting a Mohawk restored. That's something.
to
Big 482.
Yes.
Nathan. No, okay.
Nathan, is that you?
It wouldn't be Nathan
Uh,
because I think Nathan and San Juan branch lines in L4, 3001
Nathan's
and
an
L3.
Nathan's an L4B.
Interesting.
But
It's Nathan's cousin.
Oh no.
yes.
Okay. Anyways, so for anyone in the chat, feel free to suggest topics. But there's another topic that I'd like to talk about. And
Was there one about museums?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was obscure railroad museums.
Yep. Who wants to go first with
Me.
Okay, you got the stage, Aloy.
So, out in Townsend, Tennessee, there is the Little River Railroad and Lumber Company Museum. It's a small museum. They don't run any trains. But we do have a stray locomotive outside on static display. This museum is all about the Little River Railroad and Lumber Company that ran in the Smoky Mountains. It was a logging railroad founded by W.B. Townsend in the early 1900s. Some of their notable locomotives is Little River Railroad 110, the smallest Pacific. Love that thing. But the museum, their Shea locomotive 2147 is the last remaining Shea from the Little River Railroad, and it's just And in the inside of the museum, we have a bunch of artifacts they found from the railroad. And we have a wall of the railroad's entire locomotive roster and a wall of all the derailments. Knowing logging railroads, there were a lot of derailments. But yeah, this museum is in Townsend, Tennessee, currently in their off-season. Should be opening back up in March or April. Can't really remember. And they do events on select dates where they have a hand cart, a portable steam engine making ice cream, live music, and running G-scale trains. So yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Any other obscure
museums? Oh yeah, I also sometimes volunteer there.
Oh, nice.
So may I suggest a topic that just popped into my head? Let's talk about volunteering in railroad preservation. I'll start first. So when I don't live out there anymore, and chances are I will not live out there anytime in the near future, as far as I know. But I lived in Arizona, and during my time in Arizona, I visited probably one of my favorite railroad museums that I've visited, the Arizona Railroad Museum in Chandler, Arizona. I just loved the museum. They had a lot of beautifully restored passenger cars there. A lot of cars from the Santa Fe, which Santa Fe is one of my more favorite Western roads. And I was intrigued enough to grab a application, and I applied to volunteer there. Well, the original plan was that I was going to come back home to Michigan for the spring and summertime, and then about mid to late fall, I was going to go back to Arizona, and I was going to start volunteering there. But plans changed, and I unfortunately did not go back out to Arizona, so I have not actually volunteered, like put in a day of volunteering at a river museum. But I did take a step and I did apply. Now there is a river museum in the town that I live in, But then again, like if I wanted to go work on steam, then in Michigan I have a few places to choose from. That is the Steam Railroading Institute in Owasso, Michigan. There's the steam trains at the Greenfield Village and Henry Ford Museum of Design and Innovation in Dearborn, and also the Huckleberry Railroad in Genesee County, Michigan. I think the Little River might be a bit too far of a drive, but those are kind of the few that I kind of kick back and forth. If I was to go somewhere, I would either go to the SRI or Huckleberry, but I'm not really sure. So anyone else take it from here?
I guess I will. Honestly, railroad preservation is a very important thing. To preserve the history of railroads to the future generation is just really important. So they know like the past of how things were, and they could also learn from it too.
Yeah, railroad museums are definitely so like even like yeah, there are those big ones, but even the small ones serve a good purpose. Um, like just preserving history and keeping it alive for younger generations to see. That's definitely that's all it takes for me to volunteer for anything railroad museum related or backtracking a little bit or model train related, because like preserving history so the younger generation can see it, like that's important to me on a personal level, because I've seen so much so much stuff from my past kind of just disappear without a trace of even existing. Like you wouldn't know it existed if I threw its name in your face. Um so um yeah, preserving history so the younger generations can see it and experience it is it's something that shouldn't be like taken for granted or anything like that. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about it.
I'm back by
Yeah, I want to know, and I might just be stating the obvious here, but with kind of like I want to say our generation, like Gen Z and like millennials, has there been a push for more accurate history? Like, have there been pieces of history in railroad sectors that have that people that are, say, the millennial or Gen Z age, that are like they've gone into books and they've done research and they've fully proven this, say, hey, this isn't correct. We've been saying it for years, decades maybe, that yeah, it went this way, but I've done my research and it actually went this way. So has there been a recent example in the world of river preservation, or maybe just historical, like the world of historical research and the related to trains, that someone's made a discovery that that something actually different happened than what was actually commonly believed?
That's actually a really good question. I think I did actually find something similar to what you're saying. It's really minuscule, but it's still on topic. So, for those of you who know me, one of my favorite locomotives is the Duluth Mesabi and Iron Range S7, or the Union Railroad O102s. And for the longest time, the locomotive preserved in Greenville was always logged as 603, when in actuality it was 604. And for the longest time, it was even painted like that, until the documents were finally corrected. In fact, I have a video, a DVD, a Green Frog Productions from Berkshire Productions, and he even says again 603 instead of 604. So I found that kind of interesting. So would anyone else like to? So earlier, this is kind of going into what we were starting on, obscure museums and volunteering in museums. So I am local to the Greenville and Sharon area, as you can see through some of the videos that I film. And in turn, I have been to many obscure museums around my area. So some obscure museums that I know of is the Greenville Museum, of course. That one is still pretty obscure, and not very many people even know it's there unless you're local. A few more that I found was the one in Meadville. So there is actually a park in Meadville with a Erie S.2, Baldwin S.2, preserved, with a Bessemer and Lake Erie wood-sided boxcar and a Erie Lackawanna bay window. Another museum that I know of that is kind of obscure is the Conneaut Railroad Museum, which is in Conneaut, Ohio, and it is sitting along the New York Central water level, which is one of my series on my channel, Conquering Conneaut. That is where I film all of my footage from there. Another obscure museum, especially where I am, when it's not too obscure, but not very people talk about it, is probably the Oil Creek and Titusville as a whole. I mean, it's not obscure, but not very many people know that there is a railroad line like that. And going back to the volunteer thing, this summer I'm going to apply for volunteership at the Greenville Railroad Museum, and I'm going to be a tour guide. So if you're planning to go there, you might meet me. I'm nothing special, but we'll see what happens. Alright, anyone else take the floor, I guess?
I'll take it for a few minutes. So I go up north fairly often to visit my grandpa during the summertime. And one of the towns that he's near has an old railroad depot in it. That's right next to what would have been the Michigan Central way, way back in the day. Now it's a short line that runs through there. And there's an old depot there, and now the depot is a small little museum. I go in there from time to time just to kind of look around, but they have a few cars that are displayed outside. And this is where it gets weird and kind of interesting. So they have a caboose. It is a Pennsylvania Railroad N5B style caboose. I'm not very good with my Pennsy cabooses, so please forgive me if I
leave that to me.
Okay.
Leave that to me. Leave it to the Penzi farmer.
I'm not just the man of the Bessemer. I'm the man of the Penzi.
Anyways, but here's the weird part. They have two passenger cars that are British style. They have buffers on them, and they're British.
Get out.
They're just at a podunk little river museum in northern Michigan.
I'm gonna need you to take pictures of those and send them to me, because what?
In other words, return the sender.
Return the sender.
So yeah, that's probably the most obscure museum I've been to.
That's cool.
I
I believe
I'm
Lloyd
just
had to go. So Frantic, if you're here, do you want to say any?
Specifically pertaining to museums or
Museums, most likely, or railroad places.
places. I can think of quite a few. There's there's the Monterey Depot. If you're talking obscure stuff, watch no further than the Tennessee Central. It has a following of, I'm pretty sure, 3 people. That guy that made a sign, Caleb Leach, and possibly myself. I'm not entirely sure on that. It's one of those where hardly anyone remembers it. It's just kind of forgotten, you know. It's a railroad that once tied in with Illinois Central. It dealt with most of the freight coming through the state of Tennessee. It dealt with the projects at Y-12 during the atom bomb project. It was essentially the basis and foundation of Tennessee railroading, east to west anyway. And now most of its roadbed is gone. There's a handful of trackage that goes from Nashville to Monterey, and then there's some trackage that goes. I'm pretty sure it's not even Tennessee Central anymore, but there's some trackage that goes from Nashville and follows along near the L&N line and goes more west. But there are all kinds of museums, old station buildings, service depots, houses, buildings. Twin cabooses. Oh.
Real quick.
Yes, go ahead.
When you're done with this, I'm going to ask you if we can talk about R.J. Corman wanting to restore a Tennessee Central steam engine, because I remember you mentioning that.
Well, Corman's not the one behind it, thankfully.
Okay, phew.
But Ben, you'll have to elaborate a little bit about the twin cabooses, because I'm not exactly remembering that one. It's been a minute. But yeah, those. So before I delve in on the 576, I am going to go headlong into possibly one of the craziest things TC did in its early days, but it worked. So the Tennessee Central, way early on, was a very small amount of trackage. They barely even qualified to be a railroad at that point in time. It was more of a carriage service that just so happened to be on rails. And as they kind of came up, they eventually struck the interest of the USRA, the United States Railway Administration, which was kind of the pre-runner to the FRA. Tennessee Central was starting to run mainline freight trains, and they got told that, hey, you need a caboose, you need a tail car. And they decided to build some. They started by doing what everyone else was doing at the time and using old coach components and combining them with a boxcar. So we cut the ends a little bit, maybe stick a deck on them, put doors, and a little bit of a cupola on the top. Very straightforward, very simple, and it worked. TC proceeded to run the cars, which were referred to as X001 and X002 for several years. Eventually, these cabooses would be replaced with wooden, more late model wooden cabooses with proper interiors and facilities, and eventually steel cabooses, not unlike that used by the Southern Railway and the Pennsylvania in some cases. Toward the end of their years, though, toward 1968, an incident occurred where the FRA at this point in time was in full swing, and a box fell over. We'll ignore that for now. By then it was 68, and, well, no, this was toward 68. It wasn't the end of the line yet. It's about 5 years till, and they got absolutely sideways, strapped for cash, and a group of FRA inspectors showed up. They did an audit of motive power, crew training, railroad stock, and general safety practices. And when the audit came back, everything came back all right, aside from a branch of track going from Crossville to, middle of Crossville through the city. They had a street run that was not tagged as a street run. It was tagged as a long crossing. Smokestack. Summary. Tennessee Central built cabooses out of boxcars way back when, and they're about to do a funny. Anyway, back to how that went. They were in downtown Crossville. They had a street run that wasn't tagged correctly, and they had a handful of other things that were just kind of out of place. And then came the final report. They were running too many trains and had potential to run too many trains without cabooses. So they would be required to somehow pull 5 cabooses out of their rear end, and they had 5 days to do it, 1 day per car. And that's before the fines would start to set in. So they looked through the rule books really quick, and in a bout of malicious compliance, figured out that nothing said it has to be an FRA-approved caboose car. It just has to be safe enough to be used in a shove, and it has to have some sort of viewpoint on top.
Loopholes. You love them.
So they took 5 wooden box cars, all from pre-war era, 1930s or so, reinforced the frames with steel plates, and placed basically what you could call cupolas on top of them. I would not call them cupolas. I would call them wooden boxes with windows and a little podium in the middle so you could stand up and look out. They were nothing fancy. They hardly qualified as a caboose, but it satisfied the need. Now, the incident that Loy specifically is referring to, this is what I think he's referring to, is the twin bobber cabooses that they had, the replacements for 01 and 02. So, I'm not sure.
Well, just as a quick side note, it's always interesting seeing how in the early days of railroading, or the early days of a railroad's life, how a lot of the time, especially when they're first starting out, they love to hobble stuff together just to get it done, so they don't have to spend an extra dime, and it's always interesting, and it always brings really cool stuff out of it.
The issue is Tennessee Central liked to cobble stuff together even if it cost more just to prove that they could. And that showed in the case of the HH660s and the 1010-1000s from Baldwin. One of the 1010-1000s had a vapor lock issue where a crew was attempting to start it, and it proceeded to basically punch holes through the piston because the skirts were a little too sturdy and they had a really high compression rating. So rather than the piston rattling a little bit and allowing fluid past, it just found the weakest point in the piston head and cracked it.
So in other words, frick around, find out.
TC, in a bout of desperation, found a pair of Chevrolet big block engines, stacked them one over the other, and hooked them into the hydraulic drive system. So there for a while they had a V16 powered locomotive.
Really cool. That's cool.
That is awesome.
Ironically, that 1010 stayed on TC's roster until their closure in '68. And what eventually got it was when L&N came in and started liquidating assets. They saw it and went, "This is the dumbest thing we've ever seen." It was the very first diesel on the railroad, and it was the very last one as well.
Gee, I wonder why. But
Well, it was successfully stupid and somehow kind of didn't really work at all.
Well, it ain't stupid if it works sometimes.
And sometimes it finds a way to be both, just so you can be both, I guess.
a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah,
But
I think
my clock's job is to transport you across town. I think you're up the creek without paddle.
I think my favorite.
No.
I think one of my favorite examples of a railroad kind of doing with what they have is the Rio Grande Southern building their motor cars.
The goose.
The gooses.
The Goose, which in fact, it was only number 5 and number. If
Don't worry.
I believe it was
We'll be
only
fine.
number 5 and number 7 that were actually called Galloping Geese. Those were the ones that did the actual excursion service. I think the other ones are just known as motor cars. I think it was number 5 and number 7.
I mean, I've seen them. I remember seeing like when MTH released their models, they labeled them all as gooses. So I feel like Galloping
Pronounced
Goose.
geese.
What?
It's geese.
Oh, sorry.
Goosen.
Goosen.
Galloping goosen.
Sorry. Jeez, I'm retarded. What I meant to say was, I think they're all referred to as Galloping Geese because really it feels like a slang term for just the motor car. So I feel like it's that way, but
I mean, I think we're being correct. You would call the ones that were actually in excursion service the Galloping Geese, and just the other ones just motor cars. But that's just being nitpicky or whatever. So,
Are we gonna talk? Are we gonna talk about what Matthew was gonna talk about?
oh, sure. That should be our last topic because we were almost 2 hours into this.
Well, I was gonna suggest another one about railroad artifacts that we own.
Maybe we should do that next time. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Maybe tomorrow? Maybe we should do one tomorrow night.
We'll see.
We could.
I will probably be busy tomorrow, considering I have to
I'll save my decoder TED
digital
talk till then.
digital photo charter be like.
All right.
I'll save my decoder TED talk for tomorrow, but I'll give everyone a little sneak peek of it. Right here. Well, I guess, are you getting ready to conclude it?
Well, we still
Stream.
need to talk about one last thing, which is the Tennessee Central steam engine. And then we can conclude it.
All right.
I just love how diabolical that laugh was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm raising rent by a diabolical 5%.
No,
Go ahead,
Alrighty.
try to me. You won't have the money for it.
If you're ready,
oh,
this little story goes way on back to, and who here has heard of the Bachmann train set, the Dixie Line?
Me.
Yeah.
Me, I had one.
I have one
I
as
heard
well.
of it.
It's the one where it's all NC and STL. Well, guess what? There was a locomotive, which is NC and STL number 576. It was sitting on display out toward, it's Nashville and Chattanooga Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis number 576.
Didn't we already talk about the locomotive?
Huh?
We already talked about that locomotive, but continue.
Oh, which topic are you bringing up?
About Nashville Steam.
Nashville. Well, yeah, that's
about the flus arriving.
Oh, is that for flus for 576? I hadn't looked at the news in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
continue.
I'll try and bring this around to it because I hadn't been in the loop with the news for a little while. I don't know. I don't think it's old news yet. But the 576 is also one of the Northern class that were renamed the Dixie steam locomotives. This particular one was built in August of 1942 by Alco in Schenectady, New York for NCNSTL. It is one of the ones that remained in service until the end of the NCNSTL's steam program. Interesting thing to notice, the drawbar pull force on 576 is very, very, very close to what the Reading T1s can do. Its practical tractive effort, I should say, at the drawbar is very similar to the Reading T1s. And, we of course have the news that the flus have finally come in. All the pipe for that is in. A bunch of stuff for the restoration is really starting to come together. The whole thing, the whole mess is getting ready to come to a crescendo of really, really good planning and a lot of hard work that is finally coming together to pay off.
They could possibly start doing steam testings later this year or in test runs.
Better than
next year.
1361.
The big thing they're trying to do is avoid what's going on with the 113, which is 113 is run by a cowboy group of folks. I've known this for some time. There's been some recent events that were very nearly going to go badly. It was one of those situations where someone could have got hurt, someone should have got hurt, but thankfully no one got hurt. They're trying to avoid that. So 576, moral of the story is with it, it gets done when it gets done. If something pops up, they're going to put it off. I mean, they've been rebuilding this thing since 2019. We're going on 6 years of restoration. What is another month to 6 years? It's an old machine. It's going to have problems. Let's just work through them so that we don't have to deal with them later. That's kind of the motto of this project. Now, what does this mean for steam tourism and steam preservation in the state of Tennessee, specifically non-Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum steam services? Critical stuff here.
Or Dollywood.
Dollywood doesn't count. Dollywood is NG. It does not count. I don't care what anyone says. Dollywood is not steam preservation in Tennessee.
I mean, it's locomotives being preserved in Tennessee at a theme park.
They are, but here's the thing. Steam preservation, the whole theme park, I mean, you could argue, and I will admit this, you could very well argue that it is steam preservation. But I argue that steam preservation is a little different. Preservation and operation are two different things. Dollywood Theme Park keeps its door opens by running rides. The steam train is nothing more than a ride. Preservation goes further than giving people a ride. Preservation is where you make your operation pay for itself. You take a step back in time, you cheapen down things, and you make it work till it pays for itself in a sustaining way. A great example of this is Pete Clausen. Pete Clausen bought the 203 back years ago. I believe it was 98 or 99 that it occurred. And he began running the Rambler. The Rambler got renamed to the Three Rivers Rambler, and infamously, Pete Clausen made enough money with the 203, and the investment seemed to be worth it enough that he bought the 154, which was sitting in a park in downtown Knoxville.
Specifically, Chilhowie Park.
Yeah. Chilhowie Park's a pretty place. Just don't go there. Really, just don't go there. You won't get shivved or get a needle through your foot. But dangerous area. Anyway, it was parked in Chilhowie Park for decades as a great storage area. Several different railroad groups wanted it, including Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. Pete Clausen scooped it up from underneath their feet, took it to his shops, disappeared for a couple of years, and out comes the 154. 154 not only paid for its own restoration, it paid for the restoration of all of its coaches. It paid for the restoration of the trackage that it runs on. It paid for the restoration of the 203, and it has paid about 2/3 of the restoration of the Shay that will be running at the downtown Knoxville Railway Museum by the end of next year.
Dang.
So 2026, hopefully the goal is July of 26 to get a Shay in operation doing excursion service in the state of Tennessee in downtown Knoxville. Now, the interesting thing here, this is R.J. Corman's doing as well. Pete Clausen does steam preservation. He makes it work. He's had railroads from all over contact him to help them make it work. But R.J. Corman has a little other trick up their sleeve. While Pete Clausen has skill, and while he has wise investments and mentors, R.J. Corman has really deep pockets.
Oh boy.
And when I say deep pockets, I mean they own more trackage in the state of Tennessee than any other railroad out there. They own more, if we don't necessarily count the yards on either side, they own more mainline trackage than NS or CSX combined. They own the state of Tennessee and the state of Tennessee railroads. And they own a little right-of-way to a railroad known as the Tennessee Central. Now, if you were to say trace the line from Monterey all the way out to a company called Loist Minerals, you would have to span Lyhoist, Loist. Loist Minerals. They produce zinc and crab orchard stone. You can only get crab orchard sandstone in two places in the world. One of them is Crab Orchard, Tennessee, and the other is a place in the middle of nowhere, Zimbabwe. That's it. It's beautiful stone. It is very desirable, and it is absolutely beautiful. The patterns are amazing. It's just a great building material. Anyway, the point of the matter is it's nearly 30 miles. It's very close to being 30 miles of trackage. At a proposed restoration rate of, what was it? It's approximately $3 per linear foot if we don't count the private property in. If we count the private property, it goes up to about $20 a foot. So $20 per linear foot of rail laid. We'll use that as a standard, we'll say. If we multiply that 20 times, it'll be 20 times 5,280, which is 5,280 foot and mile, we get $105,000. So about we'll call it $100,000 a mile. That's a low estimate. That is absolutely the minimum. And I'll get the actual estimate. Here we go. It's about 33 miles, approximately 33.6 to be exact. And we end up with somewhere around $3.5 million worth of budget. Now, the actual budget that this will take, crews dealing with the eminent domain stuff, justifying to the state why we need this individual's backyard, dealing with restoring some bridges, there's 7 crossings in that 30 miles of trackage. So once we get that all said and done, all negotiated out, we'll end up somewhere around $5 million. $5 million to restore the trackage between Monterey and Crossville, Tennessee. You'll have to deal with downtown and fixing that street run. It's actually really easy to do. When you go to the depot and the crossing there, you just have to deviate a little bit, make a turn where one once was not, and follow the original proposed roadbed. The original proposed roadbed was canceled because there was supposed to be a state highway going there, and then the highway got relocated on top of the railroad track. So if the railroad track had stayed on the planned route, there would have never been a conflict and everything would have been fine. But anyway, let's say they did that. Everyone give your guess. Well, I'm not going to bother with guessing because going from Loist Minerals, we fix the 7 bridges, we get them up to the compliance and make everything so that you can go reasonably fast, say 15 miles an hour over each of those bridges with that locomotive and the rolling stock that they have. And you would get all the way to Harriman. Once you get to Harriman, you hit the main line from R.J. Corman, which is the extension route, the Harriman-Knoxville extension, that goes all the way from Harriman, Tennessee to downtown Knoxville, Tennessee, and interfaces right up with the Three Rivers Rambler. The Three Rivers Rambler cuts off at the quarry nowadays. They've got rid of a bunch of the track there, and it's going to be a walking path. It terminated shortly down the line from there anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But the point of the thing is, you could go all the way from, here, I'll look up maps. You could go all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, at the Tennessee, it'd be the Tennessee Central Railroad Museum, Tennessee Central Railroad Museum, all the way to the Three Rivers Rambler. Now, if we set the route that follows, let's see, goes up through Rockwood, Cardiff, Crossville, there's Drowning Creek, Wildwood, Honeybrook, Lancaster, Hickman, Gordonville. If we follow this route, it would be approximately, get this, 200 miles. 200 miles of
Holy
railroad
crap.
excursion. Yeah. Imagine hopping on a train in Nashville, Tennessee, and riding a high-speed steam passenger run. High speed, by the way, is classed as anything over 45 miles an hour. High speed would get upwards close to 50, 60 miles an hour, all the way from Nashville to Knoxville. 200 miles, 20 coaches, and the 576. It's absolutely possible. It would cost an overall project cost of $5 million, and it would make for an absolutely incredible run. It would be one, as long as speed is maintained and you're able to do everything right, the train could leave somewhere around 8 a.m. and it would put you in Knoxville a little after noon, and you would be getting back to Nashville closer to midnight. So you could call it like the Midnight Flyer Run. Oh, and let's say you don't want to stop at Nashville. Let's say you want to go a little past. You would have to hop on the L&N bypass that goes around the downtown city.
This is something you would have to coordinate with NS, and we all know that's not happening, but one can dream. If they could coordinate that and run down the main line at about 2 miles, they would then come to another turnoff that goes back up to the TC trackage and almost completely to Carthage. In that case, it would get you, that line is still complete, goes all the way to Memphis. If that was the case, you would have over 450 miles of passenger excursion. It would get to the point where the train would be an all-day, 24-hour run. Of course, that's not happening, but once again, one can dream. That's the potential, though. Like if we wanted to do a Nashville-Knoxville run, the potential is there. Everything is in line, and if they wanted to make it happen, they could. It would cost about $5 million to get the main trackage restored, and it would be $10 million total with all of the trackage that needs done. Just set aside the $10 million as the budget.
That
to get everything done.
So, may I add an idea in there? So, if the train, originating out of Nashville, as we know, Nashville is Music City, right? That's where that's a lot of where the country music
Opryland.
yeah, and what I'm thinking is it would be fun if think about this, okay? Think about this. In each passenger car, you have a country music singer from Nashville playing live music in one of the cars. So let's just say in one car you have John Party, in one car you have maybe Chris Stapleton, in one car maybe you have Morgan Wallen or maybe Zach Bryan in one car. Think about that. You're on a train in Tennessee. We're going along, you're going down the main line 50 miles an hour. You got beautiful scenery out the windows, and all the while you're enjoying some country music or just live music in general. Think about that.
Yep. And here's the other thing. You'll recall there is trackage that goes near Gatlinburg and near the Opera or Grand Ole Opry. Let's say we look at here it is. From where I'm at, it's about 130 miles right down. Grand Ole Opry, Nashville, Tennessee. Well, keep in mind, Grand Ole Opry is right on the river, and guess what is also on the other side of the Cumberland River? Less than walking distance.
Really?
what is?
The Tennessee Central Terminal.
Ooh.
The end of the line for the TC is walking distance from the Grand Ole Opry.
Is this where we have the Grand Ole Opry Express?
Quite very, very much possible. So here's the other thing. The TC trackage follows the river all the way up. So what I can see here, it passes, the train could stop somewhere out near Sutherland Heights, and you could have a bus that goes from the Grand Ole Opry down through the really bougie neighborhood and right into Heartland Park where the train track runs. So you could go 2 miles. Oh, and keep in mind Nashville International Airport is right there. It goes all the way along and would put you right through some of the most beautiful areas in Concord. Also, y'all know the New River train? Are y'all familiar with that?
Yes.
Yep.
The abandoned RS3?
No, not that. I'm talking about the New River train, one that they get like 30 cars.
Oh, that one.
The big one. Yeah. That one ran right through Concord here in Knoxville. If they could bring that back, theoretically, you could hop on a train going out of Greensboro, North Carolina, and ride all the way down into well past Nantahala Falls, Nantahala National Forest, go right into Tennessee, and arrive somewhere around Knoxville. Because remember, the Concord line ends up over in, well, actually, in that case, you wouldn't have to go to Knoxville, but the train would go, because once you go from Concord, you're going to end up at Spring City. So you get to Spring City, Harriman area, that's where the original TC trackage terminated and intersected with the Southern trackage. The Southern trackage is what the New River train follows. So theoretically, the New River train could stop right there in Harriman, and passengers that have purchased like a VIP train could hop on the Tennessee Central Grand Ole Opry Opryland excursion and ride all the way from Harriman, Tennessee, all the way over to Nashville. And then from the Nashville route, there's a potential that if high-speed rail and some other stuff occurred, it could be made to happen that a Nashville to Memphis high-speed train line could be put in. So think of Amtrak's Acela kind of deal. That's already actually been proposed and is very probable to happen eventually, like next 15 years. So if all this came together, and it's going to take quite a bit of revenue and quite a bit of booming economy to make this happen, but we could very well get an excursion that goes, and this also depends on CPKC working with CSX and their STEAM program, but we could hypothetically get a train ride that goes all the way from way over in the bays at Charleston into Nashville, Tennessee, from Nashville to Carthage, and then from Carthage you could go all the way across the country. We could eventually get a rail network back together, because remember, the infrastructure is still here to make this happen. East Coast infrastructure is a little broken, but West Coast and Midwestern is absolutely intact. It never went anywhere. Those passenger lines are already there in the use of freight lines. You could have a direct route starting on one coast and ride all the way on steam excursions and diesel excursions from Charleston to Los Angeles Bay. It would take about 5 days total, probably be a few $1,000s in tickets and food and whatnot. But man, that would be a crazy fun train ride.
I mean, think about this, right? Let's just say that if you were to, I mean, this is a little bit, this is probably way out there, but what if you have 2926 is a Northern, right? Santa Fe Northern?
Yeah, 484.
Okay, so just hear me out on this, okay? You take the 2926 on the original Santa Fe route from Los Angeles through Arizona, New Mexico, up over Raton Pass. And actually, let me scratch that. You take the train out of Chicago on the old Santa Fe, go on the old Santa Fe through Illinois, and on through Colorado, the original line over Raton Pass, down through Glorieta to New Mexico, Arizona, and then into Los Angeles. I mean, like Frantic said, we can all dream, but especially to have 2926 do that run with some original Santa Fe passenger cars. I mean, I don't know what BNSF would think about it, but that'd be cool.
Sounds like it would be a cool idea. Besides that, I just want to let everyone know that we are at 2 hours and 15 minutes.
I am on the brink of sleepiness. We must end this here before I accidentally fall asleep in the middle of the podcast.
I was gonna ask if it's okay if we end it here, because alright, well, Thank you,
It's
everyone.
got my approval.
I'm about to be knocked out for a solid couple hours.
I think Loy is already sleeping.
Bro, I gotta go.
Lloyd.
Never mind. Well,
We're
anyways.
getting lots of feedback.
Anyways,
All
I'd like
right.
to thank everybody for joining us for our first live in a long while. I hope everyone here had fun. I hope you guys return for the next episode. If you want an idea on when the next episode is coming out, please remember to subscribe, like the stream. I will post highlights later as either short videos or a compilation. We'll see what happens. But besides that, anyone wanna give their thoughts of how this went?
I would say the stream went well as far as our first stream back. AJ, do you mind if some of us plug our channels before we hop off here?
Absolutely.
Yes.
This is your guys' time. Plug your channels.
Okay.
Shameless self-promotion time. Go
Shameless
subscribe to Railroad Dude 7470 and screw the rest of these guys.
All right. I'm Redline Overload Productions on YouTube. I did have a YouTube channel by the name of Redline Overload Productions for a long time. But then I did a stupid and deleted it. Then I tried to start another channel called Fisher's Trains on Automobiles, and then I realized I did another stupid. So now we're righting two wrongs. I have started another Redline Overload Productions YouTube channel, so please go subscribe to it. Thank you.
All right. Loy, would you like to plug yours?
I'm Railpin Loy. I do videos of steam locomotives, diesels, or just any trains I find. Yeah. Also, mostly you will see Dollywood Express stuff.
Yeah. Frantic, you don't have a channel besides the bucket video.
Yeah, really, I don't have a channel. I publish new stuff. I want to be, keep in mind, I'm not necessarily the biggest rail fan. I'm more of a driver and transportation guy in general. So love trains, absolutely, will always love them. I love aviation stuff, but I'm a motorhead by heart. So if you do decide to try and look me up, subscribe to anything, friend requests, whatever, you can find me under the handle that I'm under currently. Also, here in the near future, some short-term stuff you're going to see a lot of content from is I'm currently building some mid-compression to high-compression Vortex Chevy engines. I got three on the table that I'm going to be finishing up, but first I got to get a Ford 450 out of the way, and I've got to get a couple of Hemis cranked out to some friends. We're also going to be doing some little Q&A, how do I videos on replacements that are sort of invasive stuff. Cars are pain, trains are gain, and airplanes, well, they like towers.
No.
My favorite.
No.
Okay.
Hey, Jimmy.
I don't know what you're on about. I said nothing controversial in the slightest.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes.
This is a bucket.
Dear God.
There's more.
No.
I need to get go. We really need to end this because I am on the brink of passing out.
Okay. Thank you all for watching.
So you're telling me you don't have night owl energy?
Not today. Not
All right,
today.
everybody, here's my message for the world. Good night, rest well. Good morning for the Australians and weird people. And go to Sleepy Land. It's
63,
a place
63.25 yen.
63.25 return to Steam covers the former franchise number 63.25 is a dog recursion.